Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to dig into Acme Solar Holdings Limited. They're a pretty big player in the Indian solar market, and we got a listener request to go through their Q3FY25 earnings call transcript from January 29th.
Yeah, seems like everyone's been talking about them.
Yeah, definitely making headlines, so we thought, let's take a closer look, see what's got everyone so excited.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
All right, so this call had all the big names: Manoj Kumar Upadhyay, the chairman, and MD Nikhil Dhingra, the CEO,
Sure.
the whole leadership team, and there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, definitely. One of the first things that jumped out at me was just how much Acme has grown in this past quarter. Like their operational capacity, it's practically doubled.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Okay.
Went from 1,340 megawatts to 2,540 megawatts.
Exactly. And a big chunk of that is thanks to this new 1,200 megawatt solar plant they just commissioned.
So it's not just about adding megawatts, it's about who they're serving.
Right, exactly. And that's another big shift we see with Acme. They're really focusing on central government off-takers now. They make up 67% of their business compared to state off-takers at 33%.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant shift. Why the focus on central government contracts?
Well, in India's power sector, the central government tends to be a bit more stable, more predictable in terms of regulations and policies.
Makes sense. States can have their own, sometimes conflicting priorities, right?
Exactly, and that can create a lot of uncertainty for businesses. So by focusing on central government contracts, Acme is basically securing a more reliable revenue stream, less risk.
Who's playing it safe, aiming for that steady growth.
Pretty much, yeah. It makes them more attractive to investors and lenders, too.
Smart move. So they've got the growth, but what about their future prospects? Their portfolio seems pretty impressive.
Oh, it is, for sure. They've secured contracts for a total of 6.97 gigawatts of capacity.
Wow, 6.97 gigawatts.
Yeah, and that includes a whopping 1,900 megawatts just this financial year alone.
Okay, so they're serious about solar. Break it down for us. What types of projects are they pursuing?
Sure. So they've got a mix of projects, 1,000 megawatts of, that's something called FDRE, or flexibly designed renewable energy.
FDRE, that sounds futuristic.
It is pretty cutting edge. Think of it like solar power, but with a built-in reliability boost. They incorporate energy storage like batteries or pumped hydro.
So even when the sun's not shining.
Exactly. It helps smooth out the variability of solar energy, makes it more dependable.
Okay, like sunshine on tap 24/7.
Yeah, pretty much. And then they've also got 600 megawatts of traditional solar projects and 300 megawatts of hybrid projects.
So a good mix, keeping their options open.
Yeah, diversifying their approach, catering to different needs.
And how are they doing in terms of getting these projects off the ground?
They're making solid progress. Over 50% of their under construction projects, that's 2,340 megawatts, already have signed PPAs, power purchase agreements.
Okay, so PPAs are like the green light for construction, right? Means they've got buyers lined up.
Exactly. Guarantees a buyer for their electricity at a set price, crucial for getting financing and showing lenders that the project is viable.
Got it. So PPAs are signed, construction's underway, but because building all these solar farms can't be cheap. How's Acme's financial situation looking? Can they actually afford all this?
Well, their financial position is actually quite strong. That IPO they had back in November really helped.
The IPO, everyone loves a good IPO story.
Yeah, they used the proceeds strategically, paid down a significant chunk of their debt, INR 2,070 crores to be exact.
That's a lot of crores.
It brings their net debt down to INR 6,882 crores.
So they're fiscally responsible. What about financing all these new projects?
Well, they've secured INR 16,500 crores in greenfield financing. That's about 40% of the debt they need for the projects under construction.
Greenfield financing, for those of us who aren't finance experts, what does that mean?
Basically, it's funding specifically for brand new projects from scratch, so it shows lenders have confidence in Acme's ability to make these new solar plants a success.
Okay, so not just paying off old debts, but getting new funding to fuel growth. That's a good sign.
Definitely. And they've also been smart about refinancing their existing debt, taking advantage of lower interest rates.
Makes sense. Got to keep those costs down.
Yeah, they've refinanced about 55% of their debt at an average rate of 8.8% per annum.
Okay, so they're building these solar plants, they're securing the financing, but what about actually running them? How's Acme doing on the operational side of things?
Well, their operational performance has been pretty impressive. Their plant availability is a whopping 99.4%, and grid availability even better at 99.6%.
Wow, those are some high numbers. Means their solar farms are reliably producing energy.
Exactly, and their capacity utilization factor, or CUF, has also seen a significant improvement up to 23.7% now.
So they're really squeezing all the juice out of those solar panels.
You could say that, yeah, it's a combination of efficient technologies, optimized operations, and good location choices.
So they're firing on all cylinders, but even in the world of solar energy, there's got to be challenges, right?
Oh, for sure. One thing that came up in the earnings call was this recent regulatory change from the CERC, the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission.
Regulatory changes always make things interesting.
Right. Well, this one's mainly focused on thermal power plants, how they calculate power charges. But luckily for Acme, it doesn't really impact them.
Dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
So what other potential challenges are on the horizon?
Well, there was some talk about a potential slowdown in new tenders for solar projects across India.
A slowdown? Why is that?
Seems to be some delays in signing PPAs and PSAs for older projects, so there's speculation that the government might want to clear that backlog before issuing too many new tenders.
But like hitting the pause button to catch up on paperwork makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine that could create some uncertainty for companies like Acme who are looking to expand.
Yeah, but Acme doesn't seem too worried. They think it'll just be a temporary shift because of this new ALCM regime, but overall they don't see a major slowdown.
Okay, new acronym alert. What's ALCM?
It stands for Approved List of Models and Manufacturers. Basically, it's a new policy that says solar project developers have to use domestically manufactured solar cells and modules.
So push for made in India solar power.
Exactly. Reduce reliance on imports, boost the domestic industry.
I can see how that would be a good thing in the long run.
Right.
But it also creates some adjustments for companies like Acme.
Right. Absolutely. Could impact costs, timelines, supply chains, but Acme seems confident that they can adapt.
So they're navigating the ever-changing world of solar energy pretty well. It seems like they've got the growth, the financials, the operational efficiency, and even a knack for handling these regulatory curveballs. But what's their secret sauce? What sets them apart in this competitive industry?
Well, from what we gathered from the earnings call, their focus on innovation seems to be a key ingredient. They're always looking for ways to improve their technology and stay ahead of the curve.
So not just riding the wave, but trying to create the wave.
Exactly. And their chairman, Manoj Kumar Upadhyay, actually made a really interesting comment about their commitment to exploring new technologies.
Ooh, I love a good sneak peek into the future. What did he say?
He mentioned that they're planning to set up a small-scale FDRE pilot project in the coming months. You know, that technology with energy storage for more reliable on-demand power.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is?
Exactly. They want to test the waters, refine their approach to FDRE, address any concerns, and really show its potential to change the game.
It's a bold move, but it makes sense, especially with India aiming for such ambitious renewable energy targets.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I remember them mentioning something about aiming for 10 gigawatts of capacity by 2030. That's a huge leap from where they are now.
Massive goal, for sure. It'll require a really solid growth strategy and flawless execution.
So the question is, how will they approach it? Will it be organic growth, new projects from scratch, or will they look at acquisitions to speed things up?
Yeah, good question. The earnings call didn't really delve into the specifics of their growth strategy, but they did mention bringing in a new senior executive with experience in large-scale project execution. So it seems like they're gearing up for some serious growth one way or another.
Makes sense. Got to have the right people in place to make it happen.
Right, and it's not just about quantity, it's about quality too. They emphasize their focus on operational excellence, making sure their plants are running smoothly and efficiently.
So they're building a solar empire brick by solar brick, but even with the best technology and the best team, they can't control everything, right? What are some of the things happening in the industry that could impact Acme's future?
Well, the global supply chain for solar components is a big one. Prices have been fluctuating, and there's that push to reduce reliance on imports, especially with the ALCM policy we talked about earlier.
Right, so that could create some challenges for them if they've been relying heavily on imported components.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Could impact cost, lead times, and even the competitive landscape as domestic manufacturers step up their game.
Okay, and what about interest rates? We all know they've been rising, which makes borrowing more expensive. How might that affect Acme's ability to finance these ambitious projects?
Yeah, that's a key factor for sure. Higher interest rates can eat into profits and make financing more challenging. But Acme did mention they're working on improving their credit rating, which could help them secure better loan terms even with rising rates.
So being proactive, managing their financial health.
Exactly. It's a balancing act, managing debt, securing financing, keeping projects moving forward. But they've shown they can make smart financial decisions.
Okay, so we've got growth financials, innovation, operational efficiency, and even a bit of risk management thrown in. But what does it all mean for Acme's future?
Well, there's a lot of optimism about their prospects, but also an awareness of the potential challenges they face. It's a dynamic industry and things can change quickly.
So they're sailing into uncharted waters, but with a pretty good wind in their sails.
Exactly. They'll need to stay agile, adaptable, and strategic to navigate the choppy seas ahead.
I like that analogy. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Acme Solar Holdings, I wanted to share a quote from the earnings call that really stood out to me. Manoj Kumar Upadhyay, the chairman, when talking about their approach to innovation, said, and I quote, "We will keep on experimenting with new technology, which will give us an edge to not only reduce the cost in current projects, but also to work and win in future projects."
It's a powerful statement, really captures their ambition, their drive, and their belief in the power of technology.
It really does. They're not content to just be part of the solar energy boom. They want to be leading the charge, which begs the question, what's next for Acme? What's their next big move?
That is the million-dollar question. Given their rapid expansion, their commitment to innovation, and the ever-changing landscape of India's solar market, where will they go from here? What strategic move will they make next?
So many possibilities. It's like they're holding all the cards in a high-stakes game, and we're all eagerly waiting to see what they play next.
It's really interesting to think about all the different paths they could take. Will they stick with solar, or will they branch out into other areas like wind energy or maybe even green hydrogen?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards diversification. They seem to be really into innovation, and they definitely want to be a major player in India's whole energy transition.
Yeah, I see that. And diversifying would also help them manage some of the risks that come with just focusing on solar.
Right, like what kinds of risks?
Well, think about it. Things like policy changes, disruptions in the supply chain, even just fluctuations in sunlight hours. Those could really impact their business if they're only doing solar.
Makes sense. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Exactly. By diversifying, they spread the risk and make their portfolio more resilient.
Okay, so maybe diversification, but I still think they'll keep pushing the boundaries of solar technology. I mean, that pilot FDRE project that shows they're not just going to sit back and relax.
Oh, absolutely. And that innovative spirit really came through in the earnings call. It wasn't just about the tech itself. It was their whole approach to problem solving. They're not afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah, they have this real entrepreneurial energy. Like they want to shape the market, not just be a part of it.
Definitely. And that's refreshing to see, especially in a sector that's so important for India's future.
For sure. And speaking of the future, their goal of reaching 10 gigawatts of capacity by 2030, that's a huge statement. Shows they're serious about making a real impact.
It's a big goal, and it won't be easy to achieve. There are some serious challenges they'll need to overcome.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, large-scale solar projects need a lot of land, and finding that land can be tough in a country like India.
Yeah, especially with competition from agriculture and urban development. How are they dealing with that?
They're trying different things, like partnering with local communities, using land that's not good for much else, and even experimenting with floating solar farms on reservoirs, getting creative.
Interesting. So they're thinking outside the box. But even if they find the land, there's still the issue of connecting those solar farms to the grid.
Right.
India's electricity infrastructure is still developing in a lot of areas.
Right. That's a big challenge. But they're working on it, collaborating with government agencies and grid operators to improve transmission capacity so their projects can connect smoothly.
So it's not just about the solar panels themselves, it's about the whole energy ecosystem.
Exactly. And another thing they'll need is skilled labor. As they grow, they need people who know how to design, install, operate, and maintain these solar systems.
Yeah, it's a specialized field for sure.
Yes.
So how are they finding those skilled workers?
They're investing in training programs, partnering with technical schools, and creating apprenticeships, building a pipeline of qualified people.
That's great. So they're not just thinking about their own needs, they're helping to develop the whole solar industry in India.
Exactly. It benefits everyone. But let's talk about competition for a minute. The solar industry in India is getting pretty crowded. How is Acme going to stay ahead of all the new players?
Good question. What's their strategy?
Well, they're focusing on being different, not just the cheapest, but the most innovative and reliable. They're focused on cutting-edge tech like FDRE, their commitment to operational excellence and their strong relationships. Those are all advantages.
So it's about the value they offer, not just the price.
Right. And they're not slowing down either. They're always looking for ways to improve what they do and stay ahead of the curve. That's what makes them stand out.
Okay, so they're doing a lot of things right,
Yeah.
but there are always unexpected challenges. What are some of the wild card risks that could throw them off course?
One big one is regulatory uncertainty. Government policies can change quickly, And that can impact everything from project approvals to incentives to tariffs. Acme needs to be ready to adapt.
Especially in an industry like renewable energy where government policies are so important.
Exactly. And then there's technological disruption. The solar industry is constantly evolving, so Acme needs to stay on top of new technologies and invest in research and development.
It's like the saying goes, innovate or die, right? They can't afford to get complacent.
Definitely. And then there's the wild card of climate change itself. It's kind of ironic, but while solar energy is a solution to climate change, it can also be affected by it.
How so?
Well, extreme weather events like floods, droughts, or hailstorms could damage solar farms and interrupt energy production.
Interesting. So the problem they're trying to solve could also be a problem for them.
Exactly. It just shows how important it is for them to be resilient and adapt to a changing climate.
Okay, so we've got land acquisition, grid integration, workforce development competition, regulatory uncertainty, technological disruption, and even climate change. That's a lot to juggle. How do they even manage all that?
It's a lot for sure, but Acme seems to approach these challenges with a good balance of realism and optimism. They know the risks, but they also have a clear vision for the future, and they believe they can make it happen.
Yeah, that entrepreneurial spirit. Again, they're not just reacting. They're shaping their own path, and that's what makes them so interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Their story is a perfect example of the challenges and opportunities facing the renewable energy sector. It's all about innovation, resilience, and human ingenuity coming together to create a more sustainable future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And as we look ahead, the big question everyone's asking is, what's next for Acme? What's their next big move?
Yeah, it really is the big question, isn't it? I mean, we've seen how much they've grown, how smart they are with their finances, their dedication to innovation, and their ability to adapt to this constantly changing industry. So what's the next chapter for Acme?
That's what makes it so exciting. They've got a solid foundation, a clear vision for what they want to do, but there's so many possibilities and, of course, potential challenges too. So which way will they go?
If I had to guess, I'd say they're going to make a big move, something that really cements their place as the leader in India's renewable energy sector, maybe a major acquisition to expand their reach, or a strategic partnership to get their hands on some new technologies. I wouldn't be surprised at all. They've shown they're not afraid to take risks when it makes sense, and they've definitely got the financial power to make a big splash.
It's like they're playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
Strategically planning their next move to stay ahead of the competition.
That's a great way to put it. And just like in chess, timing is key. They need to make their move at the right time to take advantage of new trends and stay ahead of the game.
It's going to be fascinating to see what they do. But one thing's for sure, Acme Solar Holdings is a company worth watching.
Yeah.
They're at the forefront of a really important industry. And their story is a big part of India's goal to become a global leader in renewable energy.
Absolutely. Their story is all about innovation, resilience, and a commitment to sustainability. It's inspiring, insightful, and full of lessons for anyone who's interested in the future of clean energy.
Well said. And for our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep following this story. Watch their announcements, their partnerships, their investments. What hints can you find about their next big move?
It's like a real-life business thriller, and we're all waiting to see what happens next.
That's right. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those deep dive requests coming. We'll be here to break it all down for you, one fascinating topic at a time.